Hey, it's Ramsey Dewey over here in Shanghai, China. Yeah, we got volume. Welcome to another edition of Q&A with the Coach. Today we have questions, and I got some answers. This first one comes from Ross. Ross has some question about something Eddie Bravo has said. He has often talked about the two worst-case scenarios for a jiu-jitsu-based fighter in an MMA context. Number one, the beast on top. For example, Khabib. You know, the guy who's going to get you down. He's going to get you down no matter what, and have a super effective top game. And number two, the striker with awesome takedown defense that you can't get to the ground. Ross says, first off, in your opinion, are these the worst case scenarios for a jiu-jitsu-based fighter? Are there others? And also, for non-jiu-jitsu based fighters, what are some of the worst case scenarios in terms of fighter matchups in an MMA context? Okay, when we're talking about MMA fights, which should be evenly matched, then yeah, Eddie Bravo's pretty spot on there if you are a jiu-jitsu based grappler whose intention is to submit your opponent. Because if you can't get him on the ground, you are going to have a very difficult time submitting him. And if he can impose his will and dictate position, you're going to have a very hard time submitting him. That being said, in this day and age, in professional mixed martial arts, you need to be a well-rounded fighter. That should go without saying. So the idea of being jiu-jitsu based, I understand that. There are definitely guys for whom jiu-jitsu is their greatest strength, their greatest asset in a fight. That being said, submissions are rare in fights. They really are. And most submissions that do happen in MMA fights happen in the later rounds, after damage is done. So you need considerably more than just jiu-jitsu in your repertoire if you want to be a successful jiu-jitsu fighter in mixed martial arts today. The most common submission of all, the rear naked choke, has a finishing percentage something like 60% of all submissions in the UFC are the rear naked choke. For several reasons, it is simple to apply. It is one of the few submissions that actually gets easier when friction is lost. In other words, when you're fighting shirtless, you get sweaty, very slippery, very quickly under those hot stage lights of the cage. And that's the one submission that slips on easier, as opposed to the guy slipping out. Say, slipping out of the armbar, slipping out of the guillotine, slipping out of the triangle. Now, as far as, are those the worst case scenarios? Now we could subdivide that if we're going for the jiu-jitsu based fighter. Looking for the submission. Maybe he's fighting another jiu-jitsu based fighter who just tends to cancel out everything he can do. And then it's not a jiu-jitsu fight anymore. And what if that guy doesn't know how to kickbox? I remember John Lewis's first fight in the UFC. John Lewis, he was a jiu-jitsu black belt and also a professional level Muay Thai fighter. And this was at a time when that was a very rare thing to see a real mixed martial artist who was good at more than just one thing, who had more than one option to finish a fight in the UFC. And he was paired up against another jiu-jitsu black belt who kind of just did jiu-jitsu. And John Lewis was able to stop all of his opponent's takedown attempts, shut down all of his grappling game plans, and impose his will with striking. So essentially that's one of Eddie Bravo's worst case scenarios. The striker that you can't take down, except calling John Lewis a striker is a bit of a misnomer, because he was a mixed martial artist, one of the first real mixed martial artists in the UFC, in my opinion. In other words, he was a well-rounded guy. So if your depth of experience in mixed martial arts is shallow, your worst case scenario is fighting the well-rounded guy. Now, your question was about mixed martial arts specifically. We could delve into the realm of other combat sports like boxing and wrestling and jiu-jitsu and so on, but that wasn't what we were talking about. So we'll settle with that. Be well-rounded. There is no excuse not to in this day and age. The only limiting factor is time. So get out there and train.